once we get our chat set and we introduce you. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. We are live. Hey everybody, welcome to Hack Shack Studios. I'm RT Bear, 35-year comic book veteran, working for mainly Marvel, DC, but I did do a little bit of work in the day at Image Comics way back when they were forming. Yeah, they brought me along. They kidnapped me from Marvel. Yeah, they did it. I was kicking and screaming, not really. Oh, we do have a chat. Yes, we're live. We are live, and we have people out there. Hey, Aaron. Hey, Popefire. Hey, Albino Thunderbuns. By the way, Albino, I know I say it all the time, but that's my wife's favorite name. Andrew, howdy y'all. And how do you say that? Shinto Ketchup. Hi, Victor Thomas. Hi. And I have a very, very special guest with me today. His name is Render Contender. He looked at me like, "Don't use my real name." Don't do that. So how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. Yeah. So if you guys don't know who Render Contender is, he's an up and comer. Is that how you describe maybe up and comer in the Comicsgate community?
I think so.
Yeah. Even though you've been drawing for quite a while.
Yeah. I was reintroduced to drawing about 2 years ago.
Okay.
I had left it. It was an old mistress.
Yes.
But I picked it back up again 2 years ago.
Are you glad now?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's been fun.
Well, the thing is, we are going to try to connect some dots here because Ryan and I, Render Contender and I, that's not his real name. His name's Bob. We have a past together, and it's with the old Hack Shack Studios.
Oh, that's good.
Yes. I'm writing it down.
I'm writing down.
Yes.
My secret identity.
His secret identity. Yeah, no one will know. I mean, there's a lot of people named Bob out there, so I'll edit all that out. You'll be fine. So yeah, we have a past, and that past was what, 20 years ago?
I would say, yeah, that's about right.
At least 20.
It's at least 20 years ago.
Do you remember?
I was a very young man.
I
wouldn't have even called myself a man. I was a teenager.
You were right out of high school, right?
Yeah, and I was out of high school. I'm 15, 16, probably.
That's right. And was my daughter born? Do you remember a little one?
If she was, you had just had her, I think. I remember you being very tired, so possibly not a lot of sleep, maybe.
Yeah.
It was around that time.
So it might have been longer then.
I think so.
It might have been like 22 years, 21 years.
You had already completed Black and White. I know that.
Yeah. So that was 94, 95. So what year would this be? This is still 90s, right?
94, 95.
Are you serious?
Maybe 96.
Yeah, I think it'd be more like 96, 97. Because I think the industry started crashing around 96.
Yeah.
You know, when the numbers were changing. And I believe I was restructuring Hack Shack Studios. We were doing Marvel books, right?
Yeah, we had X-Force or X-Factor, if I remember correctly.
X-Factor.
I think it was X-Factor.
Yeah. Okay, so to back up, I had run ads, right, in some of the local comic shops.
No, this was I could tell a story if you.
Oh yeah, please.
And actually, a lot of memories came back as I was on my way here to do this. That I would frequent a local comic shop very close to here, and the comic shop owner, I would go in and I would draw and just sit down. And cool. He used to have this is when they had the comic shops were in a big warehouse where it would be a lot of guys together, not quite a convention, but they would rent out a big warehouse space and you'd have tables and it would be like half a dozen comic guys with their collections and new issues too, just spread out on tables, almost convention style. Well, this guy eventually opened up a shop nearby here, and so I followed him along and would go to his
You're not
store.
talking about Frankensons, are you? That big warehouse
It
where
was
they
a
would
big
have like
warehouse
small
lot.
they were like mini cons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it was the Frankenstein.
But they were
stuff.
there like every weekend, like a swap
Right.
meet kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it's Frankenstein's.
Yeah, and one of the guys was really cool, and I was trying to get back issues of my favorite artists at the time, and he eventually opened up a shop. He got a hold of me and said, "Hey, come in, check out my shop." He was really close by here, so I would come in, and I would be able to sit down. They had boards out for people playing, the tabletop games. I never really got into it, but like the Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that, and so they had people would set up tables and play the games in the comic shop, and so I would sit at those tables and just draw. And just,
what was it? Something the Gathering, right? What was that? That was
Magic.
Magic the Gathering. That was big then.
A lot
right?
of people were into that, and so I would sit and draw, and he would look over my shoulder, and he said, "Hey, that stuff's pretty good. Art T. Bear comes in here all the time." This is what he tells me. And so at that time, I think I had already had a couple books signed by you. The Stand in Line. This was out in Riverside.
Did you go to the mall at Tyler Mall?
Yes.
Did you go to that thing?
Yes.
That was pretty badass, man.
That was Rockstar days. Of,
you know what? It was
books.
cool because it also looked more impressive because that's a small shop. So the line went out the door and there was that escalator right there, right?
Well, and of course everybody in the mall is going to stop to see why is there a big line running outside the comic book store.
I started doing, this is a little side note, but I started doing free drawings. I think I was doing cable headshots. And I think I did 100 free cable headshots because people were just from the mall. They just want something, right? So like you said, they would just go like, "Where'd you get that?" "I got it from this guy up there." And so they were just coming back in line. And I was drawing all day long. So anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, so I had already had books, signed and up in my collection of Don't Touch anymore.
Yeah.
You can't, once it's signed, you can't read it anymore.
Yeah.
And so I said, wow, Art T. Bear, so he comes in here all the time. So, oh yeah, him and I are like this, we're real tight. And I said, that's really cool. He goes, do you mind if I show him some of your work? So I said, sure, yeah, definitely, that'd be really cool. And it was just pencils, and these weren't pages or sequential or anything. It was just basically me sketching, drawings of different characters.
Right.
And and then I had come in a couple weeks later, and he goes, "Hey, I showed your work to Art, and he said, give him a call." And so I said, oh, "What do you mean, give him a call?" I'm like 15, 16, so I was shy and nervous, and I'm not going to call anybody. Why do I have to call someone?
Right.
And he goes, "You need to call him." So I said, "Okay, I'm going to do it." So I finally got up the nerves. I think I called you, and then you said, you're that kid, or you're that guy," and yeah, sure. Swing by the studio.
We have to out this guy though, because the way life, if you read any books on success, there's always a third party that gets two parties together. It's usually never a direct, it's never usually like the two people that need to connect. There's usually a third person.
Yes.
So we need to find out who this third person is so we can thank him, right?
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be that hard, I guess, to look up because he ran the comic shop.
The one at the mall?
No, this is right off the freeway over here.
Is it still there? Is the shop still there?
No.
Do you know? Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know.
Oh, the one in that shopping center.
I think the one where I stopped by for coffee, or very close.
Yeah,
Maybe
well, it looks the
direction.
same. Yeah. I know what you're talking about now.
Kind of a mini mart type of area.
Yeah.
Where there would be a
and was there a Blockbusters across the street from it? Do you remember?
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, it was like in the middle of the parking lot. If
right.
I remember. Like,
yeah.
not
Okay.
along the
I know
wall.
who you're talking about now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really, really nice guy.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
He was really cool with me. Let me sit and draw, take up his
name was Bob as well. Let's just call him Bob.
Yeah. That's probably who you were thinking of earlier when you got my name wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He got us together. I worked up the nerve to give you a call, and then you said swing by the studio, and then that's when I did. And this was the studio that was up in Orange County, or in Yorba Linda.
Yorba Linda, yeah.
So,
off La Palma over there, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I would drive out there, and a lot of this, you had Rich on not that long ago on your show, Birdsall.
Right.
Rich Birdsall. And he was saying things that were bringing back so many memories. So I remember so much clearer now because a lot of these things I wasn't sure if I was making them up, you know, when you're younger and you go, you know, you start telling, I'd tell friends stories and they would say, no, that's not true. And then you start doubting yourself if you ever have those memories.
Let's cut to this part. Let's move it forward. Okay. So you came in and I was absolutely blown away by your portfolio, right?
No. My stuff was probably really bad.
But somehow.
Yeah, but I mean, I say I was shy, but I was also a pretty ambitious kid.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, opportunity, yeah, I'll take it. You got to do it. You just got to suck up the shyness and you got to go in there and do it. And I dragged a friend with me.
But you got the job, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
So I came in and I remember coming into the studio and it was a group of guys, maybe 5 or 6, I think. Different guys in the studio. You had it split into 2 areas.
Yeah, there were 2 rooms. Yeah,
and it was again, Rich went over this, and I'm glad I wasn't alone in feeling this way. But you basically showed me around what you were working on, and the pencils, and so you would get them in the boxes, you know, the like the FedEx boxes, and you were flipping through. And I remember that was just meeting for the first day, and by day 2. You were handing me these penciled pages and a marker and a rapidograph, basically, and you're like, okay, here you go. And I just froze, like, in fear, because, I mean, these pencils were, like, beautiful masterpieces to me. You know, I'm getting a behind-the-scenes look of, you know, I was, you know, obsessed with comic books and the art in it, and I'm getting these beautiful pencils. I'm going, you want me to touch a marker to this? So, yeah, it was very stressful, and it was, so it started with borders. And then it was doing the blacks,
right?
And then that's when I think it didn't take long for me to catch on, because at that age when you're looking for gas money, going on dates money, you get pretty ambitious pretty quick, so you get over that fear.
Yeah.
And you used to say, even though you put the fear into us about being careful, then you'd say, don't be precious.
Yeah.
Or don't be precious with it, or don't be, something like that.
Yeah.
But it was, eventually you get quick at it, and I remember a lot of the other guys and you saying this, that you could make more money doing the borders and the blacks if you were quick than even you were bringing in.
Yeah.
And so you would just go through the pages so quick, and and that's when I graduated from the rapidographs to the brush, just because it was faster. If you can hit the spots really good.
So you were kind of outlining the black areas with the rapidograph, and then you were filling it in with the brush.
With the brush,
so then you just went full on brush, right? Yeah, that's when the confidence comes in. But so you came in, and I think I remember you were kind of in your goth phase. Was that your vampire, your new romantic?
No, I was very, very punk.
You had long hair, right?
I did, yeah. I had long hair, but it was long so that I could also spike it.
Okay.
So that was but I didn't wear it that way.
Yeah, it wasn't like long. It was just kind of like shoulder length or something like that.
Yeah. And I think I had it shaved on the sides too. So I mean that was an embarrassing look back then.
I don't remember the shave. I remember it kind of in your
covered.
face.
Yeah, because it would sit down and you couldn't tell.
Okay.
It would just be in my face.
Okay.
Yeah. So. That was a fun
And it's like,
phase.
who the hell did I just hire?
Yeah, well, and so I wasn't sure if I remembered a lot of the fun times correctly until, thanks, that's really nice.
Yeah, thanks, Fusebox. Yeah, I just pointed out that you said that he's amazing, which he is.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me see who else is in Liam's in too.
Yeah. There's Albino. We got P Money. We have Sierra Whiskey. Yeah, so we're doing good. So keep going, man.
Okay, good. I'm not boring people then.
No.
So
no, this is like I oh my gosh. I mean, it's been like 21, 22 years. So this is all memory lane for me too, because I don't remember these details either. So this is fun. I hope everybody in the chat's like it, because I don't remember a lot of this stuff either. So this is we
Yeah.
haven't even got the juicy stuff
Okay,
yet.
so we'll get into the juicy stuff, and then I'll give Art a way out.
Oh no!
That you can just say
Wait a
you're
minute.
crazy. You don't remember this right at all.
Uh-oh. But let's try to figure out. Okay, who was at the studio at the time, so we can give people a historical perspective. And what were we doing? We were doing X Factor.
We were doing X Factor
with Jeff Matsuda, right? And do you remember those guys were sharing? They weren't sharing the studio, but they were in the same complex, right?
Yes, I actually, because I wasn't aware, I had no idea of that. But yes.
Okay.
It was after the fact I realized that. Oh yeah, they were in the same.
Because you remember
they shared the same parking lot and the same.
Right.
Yeah.
You remember Jaime Mendoza, right?
I do remember Jaime. Yes.
And you remember Alan Martinez?
No.
Okay. Eric Benson?
Yep.
Okay. And then who else was?
I'm going to say last names. There was a McFarland.
Okay.
With
And
a
then
D.
Sean Parsons.
And Sean.
Right?
I remember Sean. Too.
Okay. Yeah, we had a pretty packed house. So then Jaime Mendoza is now inking Detective Comics, right?
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
And then Sean Parsons works for DC as well now. And then Alan Martinez left Hack Shack to work with Danny Mickey on Spawn to help out Spawn. So we got three pretty big
Danny
professionals out of the studio there.
Making his way or visiting a couple of times. Was he close? Or
Yeah,
was
we all lived close. Yeah, he lived right up
Okay.
the hill there from the studio, and so did Norm Ratman.
Okay.
Yeah, Norm's still there.
I think I remember him swinging by.
Yeah.
As well. Some people would just be coming.
And
in
then
and
the
out.
studio, because Jaime and I, when I left Extreme Studios, Jeff Masuda, Chap Yape or Yap, and Chris Leitner, who created, what were they called? What color house was that? They colored this cover. I should see what it is.
Starts with a O, I think.
Yeah, liquid. Yeah, liquid color. And who else was there? Sam Liu, who ended up becoming big time over at Warner Brothers.
Super talented.
Yeah, he was directing all those DC movies and stuff like that. He works with Bruce Timm, and we all shared a studio space over. I don't know why and how this happened, over by John Wayne Airport. So this will give you the history of the studio, okay? So we started there, and most of the guys lived out here, in this area.
Uh-huh.
And so for some reason, John Wayne over there, it's busy, man. It's crazy. So we got tired of that real quick. So then Jeff and I started looking for studios closer. And so then we found that studio space that was 2 doors down from the Hack Shack studios you remember. So what happened is those guys told Jaime and I, because there were three rooms and there were 3 kind of houses in that same office space. So there was Hack Shack Studios, which was Jaime and I with, I think, 2 assistants. Mm-hmm. And then there was Jeff Matsuda, Chap Yap, and Sam Liu, and I think they had an assistant. And then there was Liquid. So they had Aaron, and then they had Christian Leitner, and they had 1 assistant, and that was Liquid Colors. And they started there. That's where that whole thing happened. I think Liquid got their first work coloring a Marvel, what was it? Tryout book I did. Yeah, I did the cover for the Marvel Tryout book, and they did the color work for that. So that'll give you, because I don't know if you know this part of the story. So then you remember they were 2 doors down from us, and what they did is they told Jaime and I that they were leaving, because I think they were going to Sony Pictures because they started working on the Jackie Chan Adventures.
Okay.
So Jeff Matsuda did all those designs for the Jackie Chan Adventures. So it was him, Hawk, like I said, Chap, and Sam Liu. And those guys were basically those guys that basically started all of that Sony animation department. And then they later went over to Warner Brothers. And I think they're all still in animation. I think Jeff does video games now. He's got X-Ray Kid. He does video game stuff now. But anyway, so they were still working, and I was working with Jeff on X Factor. So that's why you remember that. So this X Factor, because the pages were just being walked over to us, right?
I think so. There was a lot that we had to ship. I remember there was some high stress shipping that we needed to get.
Yeah, that was to Marvel though, but I think Jeff
to
would
Marvel,
just
yeah.
walk the pages
Yeah,
over
yeah.
to our. There was like a Hack Shack West and East or whatever. We had two divisions.
I know there was a lunch area, like there was some tables set up where if you wanted to eat outside, there was the parking lot, kind of a quad area, I guess you would call it, with a little small grassy area.
And then I think Jaime and Jeff had a basketball hoop out there in the parking lot, and they would do a little. I don't know how they put teams together, but there would be people that would show up, and then they would shoot the hoops. So so we kind of got a historical perspective. So there was X Factor, and then I believe I was inking Carlos Pacheco's
yes.
XMen, right?
Yeah.
And then Jaime was inking Heroes for Hire, right? Do you remember that?
I don't remember as much what he was inking. He was doing at the time. He was doing a lot of the technical backgrounds. At least when I was ever in the studio, he was doing a lot of that work.
Okay. Because I think he started in, and we got him his own books pretty quickly on. So we must have just opened that office when you started working there then.
Yeah, he was, but you were already transitioning. He was transitioning to doing
full
books,
inks and books, yeah.
Because we were taking on more books.
Right.
I remember it was kind of It was a good time.
Because I think he had 2 books, I had 2 books, and then if I'm not mistaken, then Alan Martinez and I started working on that Bishop series together. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So then what books did you start on?
I remember there being I want to say Tarzan, but it's not Tarzan. It's what's the guy's the Marvel character?
Kazar?
It's not. Was it Kazar?
He's the only Tarzan type character I can think of at Marvel.
We were doing somebody that was a jungle character.
I don't know. We just took.
Sean was doing him. Yeah, so it was like there was a lot of work going through there. Most of the stuff that was being fed through me was the Carlos stuff.
Ooh, so you were doing the big stuff.
That was a lot of fun.
Did you ever assist Jaime, or was it mainly just me?
It was kind of over the shoulder stuff, and like, okay, here you go.
Okay.
He was doing it, but as kind of like a teaching. You know how you were really good with this too. If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna show you. You want to give it a shot. Here's the French curve, and here's the rulers, and I'll be real careful and do. So I didn't get my hands that dirty with that stuff, but everybody was willing to teach and share what they were doing. So I learned a lot, but I didn't get to get my hands dirty too much with any of the background work.
You weren't there very long, were you?
No.
6 months, maybe 8 months.
I mean, when you're younger, that seems like forever. But yeah, it was probably not that long.
Yeah.
It was,
I remember you going up the ranks pretty fast. Yeah.
That was I wanted money.
Well,
so
that's
I got really. I tried to get really comfortable with the brush work, really fast, and so that I could go faster on the pages doing that. Because I mean, once you were done with the page, it was here's the next one. That's how busy we were.
Oh, you were explaining the drawers, right? So there were drawers with everybody's name on it, right?
Yeah.
So then you'd come in, and then you just open the drawer, and that would be your work for the day or whatever, right?
Because we didn't really have a schedule, I would say. It was just kind of come in and get as much work done as you can get done.
Yeah.
And because we were pulling all-nighters, I remember. At times when I would show up, and there would be people that were sleeping. Yeah,
it was 24 hours. I tried, since my daughter had just been born, I tried to make it more of a 9 to 5. So I usually got in the office around 9 and left about 6 or 7. And I did do a couple all-nighters, but that gets old really fast.
Yeah.
And I probably already had, I don't know, maybe 15 years invested, in the industry then. But I know that I think Jaime was more of a night owl. So I think some of the key guys had keys to the studio, so they could let themselves in and out of the studio. So if you wanted to work all night, you could. Yeah. Mm. So.
Well, and you got a lot of procrastination too, and last minute panic. I remember was
There was
the
always
guys
last minute panic.
was we got to get this done tomorrow. So, yeah, okay. Who's gonna stay here all night?
Yeah,
And
because
you just-
I'm not.
Yeah.
I got my work done. Yeah. But the thing is, it would be like this, because this is how I would break down the math. Okay, say we had 3 books, right? So that means we had to do 3 pages a day, period. And if it was 3 different books, we had to do 1 page from each one of those books. And we had to begin at, and then end at the end of the day with that page being done. So there was no ifs, ands, or buts, because if you didn't do it, then we would definitely miss shipping. So then what ended up happening is, like you said, money and ambition being what it is. The 3 books became 4 books. The 4 books became 5 books. And I think at some point we were bouncing back and forth on 6 different books.
I specifically remember 6 books because I specifically remember when it went back down to 3.
Yeah, so if it's 6 books, that's 66 pages that we were responsible for a month. That's almost, well, I want to say it's almost 100 pages. I wanted to be like overly dramatic. It's almost 100. It's not even close to 100 pages, but 66 pages a month, because they were 22-page stories at the time, plus covers. So we were probably close to 70 pages a month at times that we were putting out at that studio. And I don't know to this day if there's been any studios that have done that kind of output. So Hack Shack in the day, I think we ran it that way from the time, because when you came in, I think that was the new renaissance. So when you came in, that's when things start shifting over and getting very serious. So I think we ran maybe 12 years in that mode of craziness.
Yeah. You said seriousness at first. I remember craziness very much.
Well, you want to share some of the craziness?
Well, see, again, I'm young, and I may be remembering these things wrong, so Art will correct me if I'm using my imagination. But I remember being sometimes very afraid of what did I get myself into, because when you get a lot of people, 6 books, pushing yourselves, we were having a lot of fun too. And so one of the things that stood out that I remember in an old Drawn and Quartered, I think somebody started mentioning eating a stick of butter, and I was in the chats, and I'm going, that's really strange, because I remember back in the day us in the studio talking about daring each other to eat a stick of butter. I said, somebody's been talking to Art, and this is before I really knew that you were kind of talking to some of the same people I was talking to.
Right.
And
right.
I didn't know, YouTube was kind of is hard to find certain people. Oh, hey, he's here, he's there. And then I go, that's really strange. Art must be popping around, or it's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
But one of the standing things we had there at the studio was a challenge that anybody coming to the studio could take up, which was you had to complete these 3 things.
It was $100 bet, right?
Was it $100? I couldn't remember what was on the line. Bet, yeah. It almost didn't matter because but you had to drink a NyQuil.
Yeah.
Drink a bottle of NyQuil.
Right.
Eat a stick of butter, and then breakdance in the shared parking lot, which you explained before,
Right.
where all the different studios were. It was kind of a centralized, all the windows
I think we had the cardboard box already broken down where you could do some breakdance.
Yes, no. It was in the corner, so you knew it was serious. And that was there. It got close to people wanting to do it. We
had a guy that finally broke. I think he just wanted the money, right? And I think Eric and I backed down. He actually called our bluff. We backed down because we were like, we're not calling 911, dude. I know you want this $100, but and I would have gave it to him. It wasn't about the money. It was about like his life. Because we were talking, because we got reacquainted at the Ontario
the con.
Yeah, the Comic-Con Revolution. And I think you had done some research, and I think I did some research about drinking a whole bottle of NyQuil. So it's not the butter, because I think you could, it depends on your constitution, but I think you could probably get a stick of butter down. But the NyQuil would put you into a semi-coma or something, we found out, right?
Yeah, I remember being at the studio and everybody starting to question. Now this, I think, predates anybody.
Internet.
Yeah, looking it up.
Yeah.
So we were all trying to do our, our whatever high school science. I think this might be a bad idea.
Yeah.
You might. There's a possibility you could die, but there was just as much egging on from different groups of no, do it. Yeah, do it.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think it was probably that. And then I think it was Eric and I that were the voice of reason. And then we were just finally like, nah, we can't do it. But I think the bet stayed on the table. I don't think it went away. I think that was the legacy. It might have been your legacy.
Yeah. That was now speaking of going into the parking lot, I remember Rich telling a story when he was on your show about having to chase down FedEx.
Yes.
Now me and one of the other guys at the studio, I definitely remember not chasing down FedEx but laying in front of the FedEx. Very like Occupy Wall Street, and it was that poor FedEx guy. We would be finishing up pages, and these had to get to New York, right?
Yeah,
They had to
Marvel
get out,
probably,
and we're on deadline with editors phoning in, and it was hold on, we're getting the box sealed right now. And the FedEx guys kind of caught on to it and got sick of waiting, because 5 minutes would turn into 30 minutes, would turn into 45 minutes. And
did they go that long?
It was,
oh
yeah.
my
Well,
God.
it depends on how aggressive you were. And like I said, I was a shy kid, but I was also very ambitious. So some of the guys in the studio were, send Render out there.
The new guy.
He'll do it. He's like Mikey. He'll do it. Send him out there. Send the new guy out there. And I would... I took it very seriously. I don't want these guys to not like me because I failed at stopping the FedEx truck.
Yeah.
So it was like, standing in front of it.
Well, also, just to back up, we worked probably from 8 o'clock that morning to that FedEx time trying to get those pages done in the most intense way possible. Mm-hmm. So it all came down to that one moment, right?
Yes.
It was going to either fail or succeed based on you laying down in front of the truck.
I mean, it's a whole nother day of shipping, and it would be a full box of pages, and they're still drying sometimes. I mean, we were like trying to dry the pages off fast enough to get them sealed. And
sometimes we were doing blacks as we were running out to the Federal Express truck. Yeah. Because the complex had a Federal Express drop-off box. So usually if anybody has done anything deadline-oriented, human nature, you usually take exactly the amount of time that you have.
Yes.
And we were young, and we probably liked the adrenaline rush.
Yes. That's what made us crazy.
Yeah, that's what made us crazy. So we would wait till the last possible minute to finish everything up. So sometimes the pages would actually be done as we were walking out or running out to Federal Express.
Yes.
And then, like Render said, the new guy would go out there and basically stall for the Federal Express truck driver. So you guys would do a soft shoe dance and or lay down, like I think Occupation Wall Street.
You started with trying to be charming.
Yeah.
Which only got you so far. Then you try to, I don't know if we ever bribed, but it was, come on, man. Come on. Don't be like that. It doesn't work if you tell them, don't be an a-hole. Come on. No.
Be cool. It was always like, come on, be cool, man. My job is on the line. Yeah.
And then I do, then where his next stop was. So you'd remember their routes. So
gosh, we did chase those guys down.
Yeah, you could drive down. There was that one street. It was a faster street, but you can get on that street, and you can really chase them down because he had to visit all the other.
You're right,
guys
and there was one at another complex like ours, the office complex, and then there was one like his last one in the area was over by some Chinese food restaurant. Over. Well, I do because I remember driving down there. It's the same guy, and I'm like, "Hey, I missed you over here." And he's like, "Man, you guys are dedicated." Yeah.
He would reward you though if you put in a huge effort to chase him down. Even try to because there were those open doors.
Yeah.
You could practically lean out of your car and give him the boxes.
I think we ran a couple times and just like threw it in the truck. Yeah, while they were driving off. Yeah, no, it was some crazy, crazy days. Because the thing is, in comic books, if you can't meet your deadline, then you don't get work the next month. It's that simple. Yeah. And I knew I was pushing it because when you start saying, "Give me another book," you know what I mean? Automatically, these companies are like, "I don't think he can handle another book," right? And then if they start doing the math, they're like, other editors talk to other editors. It's like, wait a minute, Art T. Bear and Hack Shack Studios has a book. Yeah, they have one of my books too. And then they're like, yeah, they have one of my books. And it's like before you know it, they're like, they have 4 Marvel books. And then they start seeing like DC books come up on the newsstand, and they're like, wait a minute, they're doing 2 DC books as well.
Would they start to get nervous? Or did you ever get?
They never did get nervous. You know why? Because we kicked ass. Yeah. Because you laid down Occupation Wall Street style in front of the truck and made sure that box got on. That's a level of dedication, man. It was pretty crazy. I will let you know, it did get better in time. Because we were also trying to make up a structure of how to do things. You know what I mean? Like how to delegate work, how to, who can do this job the best, who can do that job the best. So there was a lot of learning curves on my part, how to organize things. And one of the biggest things if you're going to run a studio is that for continuity's sake, you have to have the same guy do every aspect of the book. So, let's just say somebody's doing the blacks and borders. Mm-hmm. That same person would usually do the blacks and borders for that assignment, the whole book. And so if there was somebody on backgrounds, they would usually do all the backgrounds on that book. Or if they were doing secondary or background figures, they did all of those. So then every one of those pages looked the same. Even though there were different people that were working on them, they retained, continuity, and they all looked the same. So the teams would change from book to book, but that's usually how it eventually worked out for everybody. And the thing is, as a learning, because it was also a learning studio. So if you came in and you had more skill, that's the level you started at. And if you came in and you had really basic skills, then there was that ladder, that you would take that first rung, then the next rung, and then the next rung. And I always wanted to do it as I would introduce things to each person individually as they could accept it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As they could absorb the new information and move forward from there. So there were people that had really basic skills, and there were people that had skills through the roof that worked there, mm-hmm. And everything in between. So it was a pretty good, well-rounded studio where we had people coming in and they were learning the craft, and there were enough people there that 24/7 there was somebody there to teach them that craft. If if they worked a night shift or that they were working late, they would probably look over Jaime's shoulder. Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty good times. And do you remember the samurai sword?
I remember being deathly afraid of this. I think multiple swords. There was somebody there that collected swords from the conventions or from the shows.
I think it was Sean Parsons.
Oh, yeah. And then there was another guy that sat right behind me. I mean, if we pushed our chairs out, we hit back.
That room was packed at the time, right?
That was the second room.
The side room, yeah.
And the two of them, even though I think they were pretty tight, they were like buddies, but they would get into fights like brothers.
It was Sean and that, what did you say his name?
McFarlane,
yeah.
Yeah, and they, that's kind of the read on my head was that they were really good friends, but they would get into some arguments that would turn physical, and they would start talking trash to each other, and I'm in between the two of them, and from time to time the sword would get picked up, and these were real swords.
Yeah, they were.
So when you're worried about getting your body parts lopped off while you're trying to concentrate on not getting ink spilt on, Pacheco's.
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah. And were you there when they actually started throwing boxes at the samurai swords? Like, there was a guy that had the sword, it was probably Sean, yes. And then somebody would throw the box at them, and then he would slice the box in half.
Yeah, I do
And it started in the actual office.
Yes.
They were doing it
Yes.
in close quarters.
Yes. There was a lot of swinging of swords.
Yeah.
And at that point, there was no work being done because you didn't want to try to ignore them while sharp samurai swords
Comes at the back of your head, right?
There was blades, like more of like very Lord of the Rings type of, because he collected a lot, like, you know,
broadswords and,
even some smaller daggers and stuff like
and
that.
stuff,
You
yeah.
know, and I'm worried about. But to out you though,
What?
you were saying throwing boxes around. There, one thing I knew right when I came to the studio was everybody had a propensity to throw stuff at each other. That was just like part of the environment or the vibe, I guess, which was really foreign to me, but you had to catch on real quick. For no reason, people would just start throwing stuff at each other, which again, this is the same place where everybody's nervous, or at least I was very nervous. You don't want to mess up. You're spilling ink on things.
And then you have, like, incoming
permanent. And then people are throwing bottle caps and I mean, like water bottle
lids.
Yeah.
Wait, do you remember?
You would throw sticks like at people just randomly for no reason.
Do you remember when they had at Angel Stadium they had the rally monkeys?
Yes.
Do you remember? Oh God, I can't remember his name now. He brought in like one of those rally monkeys.
I don't remember.
They're like a little stuffed like monkey, and then I think it would scream when you threw it. So then I would be working, I just hear thump. It's like, stop it.
It was almost like there was a competitiveness there of who could throw the weirdest stuff across the room.
Well, there was one where I made a mistake and I had a bunch of pogs from the day.
Oh, yeah.
And I brought a box of them in.
Those hurt.
Yeah. Well, it was the slammers, those what were those things made out of? Like plastic. I forget what, not laminate. I forget what they were made out of. But yeah, I brought them in and I was thinking like, hey guys, just grab some, take them home, whatever, you know, it's like just freebies, whatever. And so I don't think anybody took them home. They just became projectiles that they threw at each other. And it started with the cardboard pogs, which, you know, are annoyance, but they don't really hurt.
No.
But then those slammers started circulating around, and I remember...
You could do some damage with those.
Oh, I remember, and I think it was a guy named Jake, and he oh, it was... God, what was his name? A guy named Keith threw the slammer at Jake, I think, and then Jake was... No, he was going to. And then Jake just turned and was like, no, he did throw it, but it didn't hit him, right? And so then he went over there and just took Keith, I think he was a big Russian dude, he took him to the ground and he held him in like some kind of what do they call
Keith
those?
was a big guy, but
yeah.
But I think Jake was like a wrestler or a...
Yeah, he was some kind of grappler dude.
Yeah.
And so he went over there and he just got him in one of those submission holds. And I remember it was right in like it went all over the room, but then it was right in front of my drawing board, like right to the side. And I'm just like, no, I gotta be daddy now. And I'm like, and then Keith's like, oh God, come on, man, it didn't even hit you and whatever. And so then he just like, hey man, you gotta say uncle or something like that. And so like, he's like, screw you, man, F you. He wouldn't do it.
I'm not saying it.
I'm not saying it. And in the meantime, it's hurting him more and more. And so then
he probably would have done it.
Yeah, before you know it, I was like, okay, guys, you gotta stop. Break it up, man.
Somebody was gonna get an arm broken.
Yeah, because it looked pretty distorted there. Yeah, the arm. Yeah, so yeah, things like that went crazy. It went out of control. So then you left the studio, and I think you left, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you had to. Was it personal? Was it? We don't need to know, actually, but...
Actually, well, this is kind of a good tangent for a story. But,
okay.
And you can deny this, too. I'll keep throwing stuff out that you have the right to deny.
I kicked you out the door?
Yeah. No, well, this was another fun game that the guys like to play. It was either when you were away or when the editors would call in, which they did on the landline.
Yeah.
Just check up on things, and we had kind of a loose calendar marked off, I think.
For deadlines?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the different editors, or it was just one editor, I can't remember her name, but she would call in, and the guys would play jokes on I was the new guy for most of my time there, and they'd put the fear into you of how mean this editor was, and you don't want to pick up, and they would all dodge the phone calls until they would say, I'm not going to pick up, you pick up. No, I'm not going to pick up, you pick up. It's caller ID, look, it's coming from New York, you don't want to pick it up. Art said you have to pick it up. He's gone to lunch, he told us you have to answer it. And again, I was naive and ambitious, so I remember picking up the phone and talking to this editor, I don't remember her name, and just BSing my way through trying to be real professional.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I don't remember this.
Yes, ma'am. We're working on it. Yeah, let me check the calendar. But I was so nervous. I was sweating bullets. But she would, we got to get this to the presses, and I got to get this to the colorist. And if we don't get these plates, or whatever, she's talking like printing lingo and industry lingo, which I had no clue what she was talking about.
Oh my god.
At the time, and so. That had happened a couple times, and I remember because I was...
Wait, you were stuck with the phone more than once?
Yeah, it happened more than once.
Wow.
It was a gag that ran... It took me a while to catch on to the fact that they were just doing that. And I don't know if it was ever getting back to you. Who's this guy you got answering the phone?
No, this is news to me now. It's amazing we actually kept those jobs. Who is this?
But I tried, probably, which made it sound worse, I tried to be very professional, and I'm going to try to sound older. And when we're very serious here and about the deadlines and
did you have a standard reply? Like, did any of those guys give you? Because you and I never talked about this, right?
No, but they had shown me. Look, here's the calendar.
This had to
here's
be
the deadlines. It probably was because it came out of the phone was in that area, the bigger room or the
it
room
should have been
to
right
the
next
door.
to my board.
Yeah, and but I remember you not being there when the phone would ring, and I remembered you a lot of times picking up the phone and talking to him, so it was kind of just me mimicking words I didn't understand.
Yeah.
But, of course, we'll get right
you'll
on
get
that.
Whatever I said, you'll get.
Yeah. Is that right? Oh, we're so close to being done.
It'll be done.
It's not a problem.
And it's like, how do you feel about staying up all night?
So somebody had approached me completely separate in my life about a really good job opportunity in printing and magazines.
Okay.
And they said, well, what's your background? They said, well, I got a job for somebody like you that, I think I just knew them personally. And I said, yeah, and the pay was, for me at 16 or 17, it was,
it
wow.
was good, yeah.
And they said, well, come in for an interview. And I said, sure, okay. In between coming in and doing pages, I went and did an interview, and it was for basically a magazine publication. And I just started talking to him about all those conversations I had with the editor, but making them sound
very professional.
Oh, well, I talked to the editor at
DC
Marvel,
Comics,
and we had to get things to the press, and the plates that they need to be made, and got to get it to the graphics department, and deadlines. Oh yeah, deadlines.
Are very important.
So you did comic books, right? Yeah. So you knew about monthly deadlines because this was they did a lot of magazines, so they had to hit those monthlies too.
Right.
And so I just kind of BS'd my way through that interview, and they hired me on the spot.
Yeah.
And all because of the words I had to learn later, what. So I've had that many years now in printing, so I know what all these words mean.
Well, you fake it until you make it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So I went into printing and just went really fast, learned my way through that whole world of printing, everything from running presses to running graphics departments, running the setting up the pages, because there's a lot of art that's involved in setting up the ads with the content.
And this, when you first started, this was computer and Photoshop and a lot of graphics, right? Or did they have graphics?
There was, the companies that that were on the cutting edge were doing it, but there was some people still stripping the
Cutting and pasting.
cutting and pasting. So
Yeah.
I was, for a while, I was a stripper. You
Yeah.
know, as my job title. But I mean, I did every job.
That's where
in
you're
printing.
stripping in negatives, right?
Yeah.
And then
You'd
taking
cut out,
them together
yeah,
and making
so,
a page.
So you'd cut out whatever you wanted for that color. If you were running CMYK for color, you'd cut it out. You'd shoot the film even. You'd run the plates, do the plate washes. So run those presses. We do pagination. You know how page 1 is going to be behind page 42. You know,
Right.
however it works out.
The folded page. It's one sheet of paper that they fold, right?
Yeah, and the cutting, the bindery, everything. So I worked in the advertising department, the production of it, all of it.
You went legit.
Yeah.
You're like, this comic thing, it's a lot of fun, but, you know,
Yeah.
I'm going legit.
Yeah, it was all money.
Yeah.
I was
You have to make a living, man.
I needed a cool car and I needed to pay for dates, and that's what
That's your
drove
bottom line.
me away.
Man.
So, and I have to say it was pretty much cold turkey. I did not pick up a brush, pencil,
Really?
anything,
Wow.
because going into printing and monthly publications is still high stress. I
Yeah.
didn't trade out into less stress. Less fun for sure, but not less stress. It's
Less projectiles and
same
swords.
thing, all-nighters, same thing, calling the presses in Canada, or telling them hold the press. I'll
Right.
get it to you tonight. I'll get it to you at 4 a.m. You can put it up on press. And the more you knew about the behind the scenes, the more you can convince the people, make friends,
Right.
and say, hold up, I got it ripping right now. Just hold off a little bit.
Was this, were you sending files through the internet, or were you still like Federal Expressing stuff
Both.
at that point?
Yeah. Sometimes you'd even have to have somebody send a disc to you for the ads and things like that.
Right.
So I had to manage different publications at the same time, and I was all deadlines. That was my whole job. And any career move I made after that was just being known for deadlines, getting things done.
Yeah. Well, I
So-
remember you were functional. You got things done, and that's trust me, man. I mean, talent is necessary, but there's a lot of people that work in comics and different things that aren't the best artists out there, but they can tell a story and they can make a deadline, and that you can rely on them. So it is really important to have that in any kind of monthly publication, on every level. Like you said, even printing and bringing a book together.
Yeah.
Like you were doing.
I would say out of the group too, out of the Hack Shack group that I was there, there was most of the people there were definitely more talented than me. I mean, there was some talented guys there. There were some hardworking guys there too, and I remember being impressed by one or the other. I mean, you really could see the amount of work some people would put in.
Yeah, 3 or 4 of those guys, because I didn't even mention his name was Andy Owens. I think he was gone by he might have stayed over at the other studio and was assisting Matsuda and those guys, but he started inking at DC Comics, and I think what was his name? McDaniel. What is his first name?
Scott McDaniel.
Scott McDaniel. Yeah, I think he was Scott McDaniel's inker for a long time. So there was him, there was Mendoza, there was Sean Parsons, and then there was Alan Martinez. So just in that time that you were there were 4 guys that went on to, have a pretty good career in comics. Yeah, they're still doing it today, so yeah.
Well, what was intimidating for me was, and like I said, I was young and just did some scribbles to get your attention, or from the guy that we knew, our comic book owner, conspirator guy. When I saw the penciled pages that were coming out of the boxes that I had to do, that we were working on, it actually, I think, discouraged me from drawing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, as much as it was beautiful to
I wish
look
you
at
would've talked to
and
me,
motivating,
man. Yeah.
well, it's kind of, you start to realize when you see how much further you have to go. When you in your mind, you think, when you're reading comic books, I could do that. I want to, and you just have fun drawing and copying, people's artwork. And then when you see that work, you get really intimidated, I think, is what it is. And then, of course, with your level of skill, the steady hand and everything, and you just start to go, oh, there's no way. How could I ever get to that point? Not, I'm making it sound way worse than it is.
No. Hey, trust me, I get intimidated to this day on, like somebody does something great. Like every time I would go to San Diego Comic-Con, I don't do it as much anymore, but you would feel equally beat down by all the competition and equally inspired. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it was constantly being torn down and then inspired.
Well, and so we'll get into the lighter side of that. Working in a group, everybody was that way. I remember that was the time though, or you can tell me, was it just your studio, or was it the time that it seemed like everybody really wanted everybody else to do good? I remember that it was more of a camaraderie competitiveness.
Yeah.
That was, you saw somebody's stuff and you wanted to it really would inspire you to do better. And this is me looking from the outside looking in, watching how you guys would improve because you saw somebody put out a really cool cover.
Right. Well, the thing about the studio, and I used to be outwardly competitive with everybody, right? And then I started realizing that you just set yourself up for a lot of disappointment. So then I started just being competitive with myself, like just trying to be the better me the next time out. You know what I mean? So I just started competing with myself. And the reason the studio always worked is because there was competitive just to become better, but it was never like I pitted this guy against this guy. You know what I mean? Like you could be like this guy or you could be like that guy. Because if this is the way I always said, if you came in Render and you could have inked the top Marvel book and you couldn't get that gig on your own or for whatever reason, then we would solicit and we would get you a book. That's how we would do it. Because I looked at it like, it's a win-win. So the more we can do, the more we all look good. And if we're all working on the same books together and we're all moving in the same direction, then it doesn't make any sense to screw the other guy or be in a petty way, be competitive with each other. Because we're all moving in the same direction. So the thing is, it was if you drop the ball, then somebody else is going to have to pick that up. And that's going to make more work for them. So you just didn't want to dump it onto the next guy. You know what I mean? Because there was an assembly line type of, environment there. So I think it kept everybody honest and kept people away from being petty towards each other, because we were competitive, but more or less just to try to get more work or get better work out of ourselves versus competing against, at least from what I saw, I wasn't in the trenches, when I left, and you guys were prank phone calling people.
And it was all in good fun. Like I said, those same guys, we would kind of encourage each other, and it would be, same thing. If somebody had a really good, if somebody was bagging on the other guy really good, you'd laugh and encourage them. And same thing if you had a drawing that one up the other guy, you'd laugh and encourage. But it was you never wanted the other guy to do worse than you.
Right. And then you'd buckle down and try to do better, or know that. See, this is the thing. When I was breaking in, I didn't know some of the stuff I was capable, or that it was even a tangible goal. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't know that you could do these things. How do you make a comic book? Who do you talk to? Because when I broke in, you had to live in New York City. There was no West Coast comic book anything. So we were kind of the first. Jim Lee, myself, Will, Scott. Scott Williams. Was it Rob Liefeld? Jim Valentino and Mark Silvestri. I think that was like the crux of the West Coast. And then later, we were like labeled the West Coast guys, So, and then if you look at the way that turned out, that's basically the image, brain trust right there, with the exception of Todd McFarlane and Eric Larson. But yeah, it was mostly West Coast. So yeah, I just didn't know you could even do it for a living. So I thought the studio was good because it was tangible. You guys got to see that it was doable. It was within your grasp that you had an avenue and a place to go to have a career in comics. At the very least, Hack Shack was an introduction to that world to you? Because you were working on actual pages, Marvel pages.
Well, and you see the behind the scenes, it starts to become real.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially from a fan. I mean, I was big into comic books at that time, and the art, and it was always about the art. And it's funny that breakdancing was one of our challenges, because that's what I think of if I try to come up with an analogy for the environment. If you've ever seen people, when they're breakdancing and they're competing, but everybody's having fun watching them compete, and if one guy does something, the other guy's going to try to copy it, and he'd even show him, oh, you don't got the moves, let me show you how it's done, and then that guy could take that to the next time he was doing it, and it was like, that's really how it worked, because you'd say, oh, that's sweet, how'd you do that? Oh, check it out, look, I just did this with the brush.
I'm going to use that.
I remember when I first saw you take a toothbrush to a page. Yeah, that's for and I was, what is he doing?
Don't do that. Well, anyways, if you guys are wondering what this image is, this is where Render Contender ended up. So we're moving this forward to
fast forward
22 years now, 21 years, something like
later,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is you in a contemporary. This is the contender. I think you are a contender. This is it. So explain a little bit about this. Is this digital inks?
That is digital, and actually that was done for Sierra Whiskey. I'm not sure if he's still in the chat, but that's based on some of the stories and characters that he was telling me about that he's got going on. I said that I wanted to draw a really buff character, and a lot of drawing is, I'm getting paid to draw, but as an artist, sometimes certain inspirations just hit your brain, and you gotta draw something like that. And him and I were DMing each other, and I said, what I feel like really drawing is just some gnarly buff character. You got anything in mind? And he goes, how about a chicken? Which is not what I had in mind at all. But I thought, you know what, I'll take the challenge. That sounds good. And so he had sent me a couple of pieces that they were working on, and there were some fighter pilots and, his other characters, the furrier characters. And so, I was in the Navy. I think Sierra Whiskey was a Marine, or maybe still is.
I think
I'm
so,
not sure. But so I would reference an F-18 crash, and I thought, okay, let's do it. I think I had told him, what if I draw like a Top Gun picture, like something from Top Gun? But anyway, that's what it turned into.
Top Gun, if it was a nightmare, if this was a Twilight Zone episode.
Well, his explanation was an evil, the bodyguard, like brute of evil space chickens. So. I had so much fun. There's stuff like that I have so much fun.
Well, I like the rendering. The rendering is that West Coast, I remember Will drilling me on this kind of reflective light, this uplighting.
Yes.
That's coming up here. So that's what you guys can't see my pointer finger, but on these thighs, like the hatching that transitions into black, those are like the Will's Portaccio kind of uplight. And then even Jim Lee started bringing it into his work and things like that. So, yeah. Like in the day, if you brought this, oh my gosh.
Well, I guess I had it in me. And so yeah, we can fast forward to, like I said, I pretty much did not pick up a pencil or a pen or anything for 20 years. And do we have time to get into that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll kind of okay, you guys. I'm sorry, I forgot to put Render Contender's link in the description, but I'll put definitely your Instagram link in the description, and anything else you want, I'll put in the description so you guys know where to find the great Render Contender. So this is your newest piece, right?
That's the newest thing.
This is a logo you just did for Outlaw Nights, right?
Yes. Yeah. I do color from time to time. I'm much slower at it though, but I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
Most colors are a lot faster than me, but I can do it. I got the eye for it, I think.
And so your big Comicsgate claim to fame is this little book that's heating up the charts right now, right?
Graveyard Shift. I am on the epilogue, which is the supplemental book, and that was kind of where I jumped in to, Malin had his talent search, and the Comicsgate talent search. So I was already doing pages that I was posting because I was in the community, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Right.
Chatting with people on YouTube, some of those early guys, and they were saying, people were looking for artists. That was always the question.
Right.
And guys like Nasser were very aggressive. Every video he was any artist out there,
Yeah,
but
I
there
have
was
a ton of emails.
yeah, and there's a lot of guys that were out there asking for it, and so I had started almost exactly 2 years ago drawing again.
Okay.
And so this would have been August or September 2 years ago. I was I was taking my son to jiu-jitsu, and on the way back we saw a comic book store, and those are a lot more rare these days.
Yes,
to
they
see.
are.
So
Yeah,
it stood
sadly.
out, and I said, "Wow, where did that come from?" And so I dragged my son into the comic book store, and he's really kind of looking at me going, "What's a comic book store?" And I said, "These the characters in the movies that you go see, the movies you love and that I love." And oh, really? And you on the outside they had the posters, and so eyes were real big, and I was getting excited again because I hadn't touched anything in the comic book
Wow,
world
you
in that
did
long.
go cold turkey.
Yeah, I was completely out of it. And so I walked into the comic book store, and it was just like everything came back to me, like the smells and the books along the wall, the new books, and I'm hoping that my son's reacting the same way, and he's going along the walls of all the new ones, and he's asking about his favorite characters that were in the movies. So his first one, I think, was Hulk, and he was like, "Oh,
Wow,
Hulk.
that's a good start.
I want a Hulk book." And I go, okay. We're going through the walls looking for a Hulk book. And I have to go ask the guy running the shop, "Where's Hulk? Where's
Really?
Hulk?"
Oh
And there
my
was,
God.
there was like a She-Hulk, and there was some other things. And I was like, okay, that's kind of like Hulk, but that's not Hulk.
Right.
Like from the movies that you know.
Right.
And he's kind of shaking his head.
That's not.
"No, Dad, no, I don't want that." And I'm asking him, said, "Hey, what happened to Hulk?" And I think he tells me, "Oh, he died, or he's dead, or something." And I said, "Wow, I've been out of it for a while. The Hulk is dead? Bruce Banner's dead? When did he die?" And I didn't know any of the story. I've been out of it.
Right.
And so I go, "Okay, well, sorry, son, what's next?"
Oh my
He goes,
gosh.
and there's a reason this is one of his favorite characters, but Hawkeye. So he goes, "How about Hawkeye? Do you have a book with him?" So he's, "Well, kind of. I mean, you can check out this Avenger." So I'm like, "Okay, son, look, how about this book?" No, that's not like the Hawkeye from the movies. No, I don't want that.
Right.
So I go, "Hey, where's Hawkeye now? What happened to him?" "Well, funny you should ask, because he killed the Hulk." And I could be getting this wrong. The chat could correct me, but this is what he's telling me. And my son's going, "Wait, Hawkeye killed the Hulk?"
How?
Okay, this is new to me. So we really ended up, he was really disappointed by the rat.
I thought you were gonna say Hawkeye's a girl now, because wasn't it?
And
a
that
girl
might
for
have
a
been,
while?
I think
Yeah.
that was, well, what about this character? What
Yeah.
about that? And the guy kept trying to show my son all these other characters of the Avengers, or the even the XMen, I think.
Right.
And so I finally kind of out myself to my son, where I go, "No, you really don't understand. These were really cool." and he goes, "Well," and I go, so he goes, "Do you want to go through the boxes? This place still has back issues.
Back
A lot of
issues,
places
yeah.
don't, but this place so I'm going through the back issues, and that's when it dawns on me, I got to remember the books that I worked on. So I start finding some of the old X Factors, and I'm looking for the artist, I think it was Carlos
Pacheco, yeah.
and I'm looking for some of his work, and I do, and it like the memories just starts coming back. I'm flipping through, and I go, "Oh, I can remember that page. Oh, I remember that double page spread. Oh, I can remember that full page. All right, I remember that. I'm gonna buy this. I'm gonna buy that." And I was buying them for my son,
Right.
and I'm telling him like, "Yeah, I worked on that." "You worked on comic books?" "No. Why didn't you never tell me?" Because I didn't tell hardly anybody.
Yeah.
So this really is a double life for me.
Yeah.
Most people in my work or my friends, they have no idea that
You're a triple spy. You're a
that I
triple
could
agent.
draw.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it became kind of like a challenge to my family, some family members, some friends, when I started saying, "No, really, I can draw." They're like, "Draw? Like what? You paint?" And I go, "No, I could draw. Like, I don't know, give me a pencil, give me something." So
I'll show
if
you.
you go all the way down on my Instagram,
Well, is this the first page?
That's the first page of
Okay.
of when I started Comicsgate Cafe.
Yeah, we should talk a little bit. We should
Yeah.
try to kind of move a
Okay.
little forward there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is this now? This is where you came on my radar, I think.
Yes.
When you start doing
Because
this.
this is when I realized that you were, kind of out and about on YouTube and the interwebs
And didn't you send this as also when I was doing the portfolio reviews?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was sending more than just this. I was sending other drawings to other channels, to other YouTubers at the time. And
Right.
these are some of the original guys. And I was saying, hey, look, I draw. If you guys ever want to do anything together, I draw. That was kind of maybe to the point of being annoying, but I was trying not to be. But it was like, hey, check this out. And I kept getting feedback. I won't mention any names, but I was getting feedback that it looked like I was slow. That's what I kept getting. And it was, no, your work looks good, but...
Why did they think you were slow? Because the new pages would come out.
I think
in
it
like
was
a
maybe
length
the
of time?
style that I was showing them some of the pages that I had drawn in. I had entered a contest on DeviantArt
Okay.
that October. I had jumped into Inktober. I just learned about that. and so those were the pictures I was sending.
Okay.
Not necessarily sequential work.
I remember was it you that was posting them on Twitter? Because I think I was seeing them on Twitter too.
Yeah, I was posting on Twitter. I wasn't getting a lot of feedback on Twitter. I was even new. I didn't start Twitter until I started drawing. So it was
Okay.
kind of like, I was just posting stuff and going, oh, this is, not getting me any notice. So Instagram was much more, people were, messaging me and saying, hey, I really like your stuff, and talking, and people would give me commissions and cover work.
Oh, very cool.
Almost right away off of that, because of a double page spread I had done for Atomic Blonde for the contest.
Okay.
For the movie, and I won. I got semi-finalist, so I won like a
That's
sign.
in here too, I think, in your Instagram.
And was more detailed. I'm trying to win a contest, so I'm trying to really show off. And I did a lot of research on the '80s albums and stuff like that. So I was drawing album covers in the background. So I think that's probably why they were saying that it looked slow. How do we know you could hold a deadline? Which really kind of made me laugh because that's my career. Is it holding? Well, hey. Yeah. But I was almost, then my ego was a little bruised when it was like, wait a minute, I can hold the deadline.
I can do this, yeah.
If I would practically kill myself to meet a deadline.
And at this time, you were telling nobody that you had any affiliation with Hack Shack,
no,
right?
No.
You had no comic
That
book.
actually turned into a thing. So I had started, I'm already talking to people, and I would get into arguments with Zach, with Richard Meyer.
Okay.
On his YouTube chats, where he put out a video, and he was bad mouthing a specific inker, but he would do this thing where he would draw over the top of the comic book, and he said, "Well, see this is where the inker's messing up, and the ink, he's doing this, and he really should know to do this." And I remember putting in the chat that. Sorry, I love you, but you don't know what you're talking about. That mistake was in the layout. There's really nothing an inker can do to save what his complaints were.
So who was drawing over, or you just don't want to name?
Well, yeah, I won't. It was.
Well, it wasn't me.
No.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't you.
Because I have done stuff like that.
This is gonna say people
you
are
don't
gonna
have
be able to look
say,
this up anyway.
okay.
But it was a title where I looked up the issue he was doing it to, and I was going, oh, okay, maybe you could say that's the inker's fault, but really that's in the layouts. And then I look up who's working on that, and I had seen that later issues you were pegged as the inker.
Oh, okay.
So I send in the chat, just hold out a couple issues, and you'll see, real good inking.
Ooh, thank you.
Here.
Okay.
And so, but at this time I didn't know
You're
where
right.
you were, what was going on.
Right.
And so that got me in the chat with a couple people, and I remember Nasser and some people were talking to me, and like, I agree, I totally agree. Yeah, art stuff is great. He totally would, make when he's on it. This book just, looks spot on, looks gold,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
So, that's when I had to, like I said, it was almost like I was called out for being slow, and I couldn't let that stand. So I set myself a goal, because of Twitter and Instagram, that I would do a page a day from now until 20 pages.
I think that's when I got on your radar. because I remember pages coming in like
It
nonstop.
was pretty much daily. I only had taken one small break in between because I wanted to make sure that people really knew that I was doing this a page per day and not just releasing them after the fact. So I put out a poll. I said, okay, how can I prove to them that I'm not I didn't draw these like a month ago.
Right.
So I was making them more current. I was letting people dictate the story. So I started sending out messages saying, hey, write something. Like, what do you think should happen next? That wasn't getting me a lot of feedback because people were either afraid to put dialogue to it or they were afraid to do things.
Right.
So then I said, well, I'll do a poll. So I did a poll of somebody's got to die. Somebody who I've introduced already has to die. So I listed the characters, and it ended up, I think Malin had a group of fans, or himself maybe, that really were pushing to make it be Lone Star. That died. Because suddenly it was neck and neck with a lot of the characters, and then you see suddenly the Malin militia came out of the woodworks, and the I was getting a lot of feedback on that poll, and it was like a runaway that like Lone Star had to die.
Lone Star had to die.
So, and this is why I told you about the Hawkeye and killing Hulk. What I did was I looked up the issue where Hawkeye killed Hulk because I had to reference that. And I use that as a kind of inside joke for myself. Later on in the pages, when he dies, it's right out of the comic book because he gets shot in the head with an arrow.
Okay.
So that was the only time that I did. But other than that, I was doing a page a day.
Well, let's. Okay, so this is Red Rooster.
Mm-hmm.
This is Cyber Frog, and this is how the adventure begins.
Yes.
And Cecil's represented here in one of the bottles on the shelf. Okay, so now we introduce two new characters. Well, actually three, right? So we have Lone Star and we have Black and White sitting at the table, just mind their own business.
Yeah.
And so then who's this gang that show up here?
The gang of thugs are the graveyard shift.
Okay, so then just a stray grenade goes flying into this nice, peaceful, 50s cafe. And then, oh no, Black and White, their coffee gets interrupted. I like the, then what, Red Rooster goes into action, is that? And then, so this is kind of all these three
All
characters.
three of them are,
They're called to duty.
They're angry that the side of the bar or cafe was blown up.
What the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
By the way, these are great. These are really, really good. You nailed all these characters. So then this is the big introduction of the graveyard shift.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was pulling lots of reference to try to get their beyond model, for as much things as I could. And there wasn't a lot out there on these, so you just have to really scour.
Yeah, John at the time wasn't posting much artwork.
Yeah, there
right?
wasn't a lot,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty good at digging stuff up, so that's what I was doing, just to try to be as close as I could.
So now we have the Jawbreakers characters jumping into action, right?
They're jumping in from behind the bar. I don't know why they're waiting behind the bar, but
they were flipping burgers.
Yeah, I think they're working in the back.
Yeah, this guy right here, Fry Cook. This guy Burger, and this guy's on shakes and malts.
Yes.
Yeah. Man, that Cyber Frog looks awesome, man. Kick that guy right in the face. So look at this. This is awesome. What is this character's name? This is from Jawbreakers, right?
That's Cuffs, I believe.
So Cuffs and Black, just like, and what? And then they're all stopped, like, who is this? Who's this new player? And it's Brutus the Badass.
Yeah, I had to do that. So every page, these ideas came to me after I'd already finished the other page. There wasn't really... My goal was, since I'm posting these every day, there has to be some type of gotcha or punchline at every page. That was my goal. Whatever I'm going to do, there's going to be an aha kind of thing at every page, because I didn't want to have any... When you're doing a page a day, you've got to keep people's interest. I didn't want any talking faces or a lot of dialogue going on. It had to be action.
You want to move pretty fast, yeah. And you want to introduce a lot of characters.
Yeah, I was trying to show, that I'm a big fan, of all these characters, of all the Comicsgate characters.
Yeah.
And that third panel down there, that's the Mexican standoff. The three guys with guns to their head. That was fun to draw.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, so this is when you got on a lot of the Comics Gate guys' radar, right?
Yeah. And that was a lot of fun to draw to. A lot of people were
This
getting.
middle pen right here.
Again, every page had to be a punchline, so I was really, Brutus the Badass shows up, but everybody turns their head and ignores him to watch
The chick fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I was very flattered, man. I was so flattered when you did this. I was like, this is the best. So, is there another page after this, or was? Oh.
Yeah, so that's actually the death of Lone Star. So in between that page, I had posted
man,
a
that's
poll.
brutal.
And since it was an arrow, it worked out perfectly for me to introduce Antonio's character's brand.
Yeah.
Those guys. So, she has the bow and arrow, so it was perfect. It was a perfect fit.
That is too cool. So then,
that's another homage page to the death of Superman. You remember that cover?
Yeah.
So,
man.
This was.
Did you wait? I have to back up. Did you ever get Mike's feedback from this?
No, I didn't. I think he was trying to play the "you can't get to me," maybe to Malin. Like, if I ignore him, he'll go away.
Yeah. But this is not.
I thought it was funny. It made me laugh the whole time I was drawing it.
I like that Malin's character is like, he's the saddest one. He's like holding the body, like, look, what have we done?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll start with you guys throwing a grenade into a freaking cafe. This guy's crying. Cyberfrog's like, oh, we lost one.
Well, by now, so at this point, Malin has already announced the talent search.
Okay.
And so the different videos, people are asking him, what do you want to see? How many pages? And they're really nuking it, really making it difficult. And you could hear in Malin's voice getting frustrated, which is easy for him you could really tell when he's frustrated.
Oh, yeah,
and he's getting irritated. Oh, should I draw 3 pages or 4? Did you say 3 or did you say 4? And so you finally get mad. Haven't you seen Render? He's posting a page every day. Just keep drawing.
Oh, I think I heard that one. Yeah.
And so somebody said in one of the videos, well, you got to be able to show emotion. You got to be able to show not just just drawing. So I'm going, I'll show emotion. And then I thought, that'll be funny. What if they're doing like the Superman cover where everybody's sad because of Lone Star dying? See, these dumb ideas just pop in my head, and then I draw them the same day.
How do you make a frog sad, and yet you nailed it right here?
I thought Cuffs being sad was really... I was cracking up the whole time I was drawing that.
That's a great face. So, okay, so then you start working on... Because we've got to move this a little bit faster. So then you start working with John on the Graveyard Shift. And so then... A few months back, we started reconnecting. Was it at WonderCon first, or was it at?
There was a couple of times, on the chats. I think, because I had you in the middle of this going on. You had opened up for people to send in to do portfolio reviews,
right?
And you had done a few of them. So I sent you the first of those grouping of pages. So yeah, that's when I kind of connected, but you still didn't know who I was at that point, and you were already saying, we need to work together. I might have some ideas, that you might be interested in, and we started connecting. Well, when John and I were working on Graveyard Shift, he was the only person that I told, and he asked me, why don't you just tell everybody that? Why don't but I told him, I said, no, I'm really
that
not
we had a past.
Right. And I told him, I said, I started drawing again, and it really kind of like boosted my confidence in drawing, and the more I was doing, the more I was really realizing how much my learning hard work had really paid off and helped my art. And so, wow, I was surprising myself more than anything. And so I said, you know what, I'd rather get on art's radar because my stuff is good, rather than going, hey, remember me?
Oh, okay.
And trying to, like a salesman, kind of like trying to get it. And I think John understood that. And I said, no, I don't want to leverage that and be like, hey, look at me, help promote my stuff, those type of things.
Well, I'm a firm believer in letting your work speak for you. So in essence, that's what you were trying to do, right? Get the work to a place where it spoke for you, and then that would open doors. And I've always been like that. Just like a little side note, the problem now is I can't be like that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I have to do YouTube shows, and I have to be that guy that's a little bit of a barker, like, hey, come check this out, look at this, but I think after 35 years I have proven myself, so I should get over it. I should get over it. But yeah, I definitely know the feeling, because I'm kind of the same way. Like, I just want to show people versus having to explain, like, hey, this, that, or the other thing. And then you find yourself overly selling something. And it gets awkward and uncomfortable. So keep going.
When I was working on the book, John and I talked a lot. He was doing edits and things like that. And so what I didn't know about him is that he had spent some time out here. I learned that kind of as I was going. He was out in the Orange County area, and I lived in the Orange County area for quite a while in Brea. And so him and I were talking about guys that we kind of knew, and I was like, yeah, I know the guys over at Hack Shack. And so John knew, but didn't tell anybody else, and I didn't tell you until we connected at the Ontario Con, where I dragged my son with me because he wanted to see the comic
Your
convention.
son is awesome, man. The kid is amazing.
So you got to meet my son there.
Yeah.
And that's when I still was.
You were so hesitant.
Yeah,
man.
I didn't really. Well, again, how you described me, and you remember the events. I was very nervous that you didn't remember me fondly. So I thought, is he gonna think of me as that punk kid?
What do you mean I didn't remember? Oh, you were afraid I wouldn't remember you fondly.
Right. That guy back in the day that you were there for a short while, and
No,
you weren't that good, or you were. I think we were all kind of crazy.
We were all a little punk.
Yeah, but it was.
Well, when you have deadlines and you're working 15-hour days and stuff like that, 7 days a week, it gets to you, man. The only way you can blow off steam is, throw pogs at each other and bring a samurai sword to work. Yeah. So then it was Comic-Con Revolution, and you were very hesitant, and then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember you.
Well, first I said, hey, I'm Render, and you're like, oh, cool, we gotta talk. Let's talk. We had hinted at talking.
That's right. Okay.
And you said we gotta talk. I said, okay, cool. So we kind of exchanged information that we'd get together and we'd talk, and then I was walking around. My son wanted to look at some other cool things that he saw, some other books. He had brought money with him, so he wanted to really. And you've talked to him. He's all about his IPs.
Oh yeah.
He's got all kinds of.
He's got
ideas.
things he wants. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a man with a plan. So finally, I go. You know what? I feel awkward, leaving it like this, where we're gonna talk, and I'm like this. Then it started getting where I was worried about it be creepy, where we're talking about, okay, I got this idea for this project.
Yeah.
And going, okay, all right, Art, it's me. Do you remember me? So I came back to your booth, and that's when I finally had to say, okay, hey, I used to work for you back in the day. And you were like, what do you mean?
It all flooded back, and we told stories that we can't tell on the air. But yeah, there was.
Oh, my
there was
son
a lot
got
of
to hear them.
Oh yes, I did. Yeah.
And he's still to this day is looking at me going, "Is that true? Is that yeah? It's true, but you have to remember this was a long time ago."
Yeah, it might have been a little bit of exaggeration.
Yeah,
in there.
it was not.
People tell stories; they exaggerate things. Yeah. Maybe we'll do a late night like Cecil stream, and we'll let it all out then. So then at the time at that con, did I mention Chrono Mechanics?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was already kind of focused on what I was going to do, and I want to apologize that it took so long to get to this place in time, because I think we had been talking for maybe 2 months or so or longer about doing something. So. So the idea was we were going to retrofit one of the older Chrono Mechanics stories, and we were going to basically retell the ending of it, and you were going to pencil it, and then I was thinking at the time, I've since been corrected, that I was going to have to put things on model and do all kinds of stuff like that. But you've since freaking nailed this stuff. We're going to show you some of Render's turnarounds for Chrono Mechanics, and also a cover that we'll eventually get around to doing together. And so you blew me away, man. You just absolutely blew me away. You got these characters right off the bat. And I was really nervous because I was thinking, I'm going to have to bring these together and put them on model, in the inks and stuff like that. Because the idea was that I would script, a new ending with my wife, and then we would give you the script, and then I'd see what you came up with layout-wise, and then we would kind of work back and forth on the layouts, and then you would do the pencils, but kind of in more of a breakdown pencil, and then I would do, finishes over that and bring any kind of modeling, put them on model if I had to. And so the way it all worked out, you guys are going to get a treat here if I can get this to work. So what do I do? So I go over to OBS, I think, and then I click this. Voila, look at that. So this is Render Contender's turnarounds. So this is the character Doug for Chrono Mechanics, and this was the last one you did, right? Or was
Zin was the last turnaround that I did.
Okay, so you absolutely nailed this character. It looks like I penciled it, so that was the idea. So that's awesome. So yeah, so was it fun? Was it hard? Was it a challenge? What was it like?
It was a challenge, and the challenge was that a lot of the Chrono Mechanics are very gesture based, because it's that animation style. That's a lot of liveliness comes in the poses you put them in. Well, and then for me to do a turnaround was find a boring pose as much as you can, because it's, you got to be on model and do the turnaround. So it was hard for me to get the character, get their emotion right.
Yeah.
And because a lot of who they are is their personality, because you really define the personality so well, and it's in their style, their movements, and they're not moving. So
right.
That's what I felt is I can't cheat on this and show, because I had sent you, I think, some where they're in poses, or he's with a guitar.
That's right. I gotta download those. Yeah.
Or with a microphone, and you can really kind of sell that you get the character. But when you're doing a turnaround, it's just you got to turn the forms, and so it was challenging in that way. But it was still a lot of fun, and I learned the characters by having to do this, where I can almost draw them now, just out of memory.
That's good.
Which really helped.
That's going to help. Yeah. So yeah, I was absolutely floored by this. And you didn't do just the 3. You did the 5 model sheet turnaround.
Is that too many?
No, it's perfect. Yeah, because the thing is, if we make a bunch of money, because if you guys haven't heard, we are going to do an Indiegogo crowdfunding for Chrono Mechanics. So the book's called Retrofit, and so there's a pre-launch page for it right now, Indiegogo pre-launch. So it's in the description, and if anybody in the chat has a wrench, if you could put that up, that would be very helpful as well. So we're trying to get early people to sign up early so they can get access to exclusives. So there's going to be a lot of exclusives that only early people are going to get. And one of the things Render and I are going to do after lunch, after this we're going to go to lunch. I'm going to treat him to lunch for all his time here. And so then we're going to go over the campaign, and we're going to go over how we're going to tell this story. So we're going to do a lot of brainstorming and creative back and forthing after this. So it is moving forward now. This is where most of my time is going to be spent now, since Black and White is done. So then we have Caravaggio. I think I'm going to have to make this a little smaller. He doesn't quite fit in. Yeah, he's kind of the tubby Renaissance guy. So once again, nailed it, Ryan. Yeah. It's weird, they all kind of have like similar, like they have big hands and big heads. So one of the things is I started realizing that each one of these characters, these four mechanics, is a part of my personality. So, Caravaggio's an artist. Doug is a rock star. So I used to play in a band. And then we have Oot, who's a prehistoric businessman. So I'm a bit of an entrepreneur with this whole, crowdfunding and running a studio and all that other stuff. So these are beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah,
I mean, go ahead.
Oot doesn't fit five across.
You did two
on
sheets,
11,
right?
17. I had to do 2 sheets.
Yeah, you did 2 sheets. But I mean, just working out the profile with the neck, because he doesn't really have a neck. So I think you did a great job trying to figure out, because I think I even cheated a lot of these profile shots in the day. Yeah. So you worked it out. So I appreciate that. And so then we have the small space alien. And some of this, you guys, these were, you just sent them to me like through a DM, right? Or through email.
Yeah, they had to be low res.
So I couldn't really bring this thing up. I tried to do some Photoshop magic. So this is the intergalactic deity who pontificates from time to time about philosophies and things like that. So his mantra is the me, myself, and I, which is kind of a do-it-yourself mantra. Like, you can be everything to your, you can be it. You can be your be-all, I guess. The me, myself, and I. So you don't need anything else. All you need is yourself, kind of thing. It's a self-reliant. Yeah, I guess it's kind of a self-reliant mantra. So he's probably the most or more positive character out of the four.
He's the optimist.
Yeah. And then, oh my gosh, this blows. I didn't know how good this was until I looked back at it just today. So this is us jamming on a layout, right? You did a couple cover layouts.
Yeah, you had thrown out the MC Escher idea, and then we did a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, so it's like a 0G kind of idea where they're out in kind of like a 0G. I didn't want to put them in because they have those little time travel helmets. Yeah. But then you wouldn't be able to see their faces, so we were fudging some of the logic here. But yeah.
You could do that.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, what the heck? What the heck? We can do anything. We can make it up, right? So this is the time ship in the background. This is Corky, who's a chronomite. He's one of the few good chronomites. He might be the only good chronomite. And so then this is Doug in mechanic form. This is over here on the right-hand side that's upside down. That's Oot in mechanic form. Just below him with the wrench is Zin in mechanic form. And then in the foreground with the welding torch and stuff is Oot in mechanic form. So the idea is they're kind of, the turnarounds we showed you, they're kind of Captain Marvel or Shazam, I should say, ish, that when they go, they have their core look or their core cells, which is the turnaround, and then when they go to work, they punch the time clock, and then they suit up. So basically, they put on their coveralls, their hard hats, and they put their tool belts on, and they go to work. And so the reason they need these body transformations is because they're very, very challenged with the big machine that is time. So these repair jobs aren't for, like normal humans. They have to kind of become superhuman to do these jobs because the big machine is quite a handful. And just a little background, you worked as, were they CBs? What are they called in the military?
In the Navy, yeah, as a CB.
Yeah.
Which is a construction battalion.
Yeah.
So very similar processes. I was actually a builder. You had construction mechanics. So kind of they're like a blend of the two. So they're repairing things physically, but also fixing machines, which would be more of a construction mechanic, which would be a CM. So
right,
yeah.
And sometimes they're even creating infrastructure to places, right, like a landing field or a small airport.
Yeah, that's when CBs are deployed. Usually they're getting things set up. Work closely with the Marines a lot. That's why Sierra Whiskey and I hit it off right away.
Yeah.
You're also doing a lot of building temporary structures like bridges, things like that. Doing inspection to make sure the bridges are the existing ones, or you would actually retrofit.
Yeah.
To you, because you're going to places where the construction cannot be that great, and you may have a team, maybe even a special forces team that's going to be holed up in an area. So you want to go out there in advance and make sure everything's kind of structurally sound.
Yeah.
Those type of things. What I got to do a lot of charity work, where this is around Hurricane Katrina, so I got to do a lot of the rebuilding. So a lot of us were used to do that. So that kind of felt really good to be able to.
So these would be like apartment buildings, dwellings,
schools,
like homes,
yeah.
schools.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we would kind of repair them. They were in shambles, and we'd do a quick job to fix them up.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you can get those people back in their homes
Yeah.
and things. Wow, man, that's amazing. Yeah. So when you told me that story once again at Comic-Con Revolution, I was floored. I was like, "You're the perfect guy for this." So we are going to be brainstorming on Chrono Mechanics. Like I said, there is a pre-launch page, so please, if you like what you've seen, go over and sign up. We would greatly appreciate it, because the more eyes we can get on the campaign early on, the better the algorithms will be, and the more promotion we'll get from Indiegogo. So and also just for confidence for Render and myself and my wife, that we can go, this is going to work.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, we can make some money doing this. And also, I haven't mentioned, there's a fourth member in this, and it's Narwhal. And I showed you some of the pages. What do you think?
Yeah, those were amazing.
Yeah.
I really like his work.
Yeah, so we're going to have Narwhal bringing it all together as far as the coloring. I think he's got 5 pages into it. So far. So you guys, this is not going to take as long as Black and White did to get it out, because it's about 2/3 of the way done, and I have Narwhal bringing the colors together now, so I'm hoping that it won't take 8 months or whatever Black and White took. And I appreciate all your patience on that, you guys, and the support. So let's bring some of these back so I can make space for myself. Gear cover, let me make sure. Yeah, I think I have this now. So this will be one of the covers for Chrono Mechanics Retrofit. So this is the 4 of them, but this is before Doug has basically punched his time card in the time clock to become to suit up as a Chrono Mechanic. So this is Doug in the foreground with the guitar. Off to the left with the sledgehammer is Gravaggio. The right with the wrench is Oot, and floating above is Zinn with his Trinity Gem and his blowtorch. So this is I'm thinking this is somewhat of a repair site in some kind of cosmic background. So a lot of the stuff they do, if you can think about it, is like they live and these nebulous time zones and the time stream and all these things. If you think about it visually, it's kind of like, where Thanos dwells, like a lot of the cosmic stuff that the Marvel Universe movies have done, like the the Guardians of the Galaxy type of environments. And so this is the Black and White line art. So I'm going to show you guys a little preview of some of the flats and some of the background choices that we're playing with. And Ryan came in, Bob came in early on, Render Contender came in, and we I showed him this, and I think this is the one he liked the most. Yeah. And so then we have this one. It's got a slight difference in background, but it has the logo in, so you guys can see how that's all going to play out. So that's that. So let me go back to OBS and the chat. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We should think about wrapping this one up. So is there anything that you want to plug, Render? Is there anything you want to do?
Um, well, yeah. If you guys can keep up with me at Render Contender, you'll see anything that have worked on or am working on. I mean, this is really about chrono mechanics, but I will give a quick plug to Graveyard Shift. That book is still got a couple weeks left, so I recommend getting the supplemental because I'm really proud of my work in that. Hope some eyes can get on it. I've done some work for Outlaw Knights. You guys can find the links for that. That's going to be a really cool book, a different avenue for my art to take. But if everybody gets on that mailing list for Chrono Mechanics, so they can kind of get in early on what's going to be going on.
And you posted the Trixie Kane cover on your Instagram, right?
That was actually used as a card for that
as
campaign.
a card. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's other Comicsgate stuff that's up on your Instagram as well, and I will be posting a link as soon as we check out. I didn't have a chance to do that before the show, so there'll be a link for all Render Contenders stuff in the link. So if you want to come back and check that out, that will be cool. So yeah, so please go check out the Chrono pre-launch page, and we're trying to get some eyes on that early on. I believe that this cover will be done probably mid to late next week, so we'll be posting that up on the Indiegogo pre-launch page as well, the Chrono Mechanics page. So thank you so much, guys, and have a great Sunday. And I think there's going to be an auction tonight, so I'm going to be on EVS's show, and I have a couple pages that I'm going to be auctioning off. I think there's going to be some Jim Starlin artwork, some Dave Finch artwork, my own artwork, the cover to my art book, Oodles of Doodles, I'm going to be auctioning off, and actually some Carlos Pacheco X-Men pages that you probably worked on.
Maybe I'll have to see if I did some of that.
That you probably worked on.
I'm looking at the one of Whitney right there. That's beautiful.
Oh, this one on the
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we have that. So you guys have a wonderful Sunday. I'll see you tonight, and let me see if I can end the stream. Yes. So thank you so much, Render, for coming on and sharing your backstory, and we will do some great work together. So see you guys. Take care.
Thanks.